Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, joined by the Trashman. Today we're going to be talking about some wide receivers that we are currently fading for 2023 season-long leagues, be they best ball or managed league, season-long traditional redraft. We'll be talking about all those, but first, a quick reminder that you can find all of our content over at rosterwatch.com, these tools and cheat sheets and various things that we're going to be referencing. You can find those over at RosterWatch. We've just put up the PPR version of the ultimate draft cheat sheet, which is for season-long managed leagues. Clearly, our flagship product is the three versions of the cheat sheet. The first version we get up is always the PPR cheat sheet. So not to be confused with the best ball cheat sheet, the Dynasty Rookie cheat sheet, the Dynasty Top 250. All things available to our pro members over at rosterwatch.com. Trash man, what the hell's going on, brother?
Just enjoying another sweltering day in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
I went to go see Theo Vaughn this weekend.
Oh, yeah? Did you see him? Was he at Rogan's spot?
No, he was at the Paramount.
Oh.
And I went with my old roommate, David. And so
David's a hell of a fisherman.
Huh?
David's a hell of a fisherman. He's a great trout fisherman.
Oh, yeah, he is, but he's not great at some other things. And like he got these tickets from a friend. Turns out his wife got the same tickets from the same friend and invited some of her friends. So like we have the same seats.
As his wife?
Yeah. So basically we don't have seats because like he's like, well, of course he's gonna let his wife and her friends go, but we're already at the theater. They let us in.
Somebody gifted the same set of tickets twice?
Yes.
Well, that person's the real villain in the story.
Yeah, but I mean, we ended up being the real villains because we went in to the theater. They let us in somehow, and
of course, you're the trash man. How could it have been an event where you didn't get something for free or managed to sneak in somehow? It's unbelievable.
We were just seat hopping the whole time, though. It was stressful.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some of this. Well, before we do this, I wanted to ask you about the Dalvin Cook news. So now it's come out that, Denver was somebody who they talked about as possibly being interested in Dalvin. Our friend Ben Albright basically came out and said, no, that this is never going to happen, that they're happy with their running back room. So there's two things to this. One, do you think that Dalvin's asking for too much money? And then, I just don't think anybody's going to sign him. That's my take on it. Nobody's going to take on a contract because he's come in and said, like, look, being somewhat reasonable by saying, he's probably not expecting to get the amount that was guaranteed to him originally, the $14 million or whatever over the long term, but he wants a substantial contract. He wants a multi-year contract. He probably wants it to be probably $10 million. From what I'm reading between the lines, he wants $10 million a year. That's not going to happen though, right? And then also, what does it say about the Broncos and their faith in what's going on with Javonte Williams that even started to percolate up?
Yeah, that's a more interesting story to me just because, really, it's Javonte and Samaje and a pack of peanuts behind him. So I feel like they have to really like Javonte's outlook right now if they're not, if they're already out of the running.
Oh, so you're saying that since they're already out of the running and since insiders like Ben Albright had said the whole time, like, no, this ain't happening. It's like the fact that it bubbled up as a rumor doesn't matter. It was probably just a false rumor.
Yeah.
Okay. There was also something else that I wanted to hit on just quickly, and it was, you kind of brought it up about DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I guess they saying officially they're bringing him in for a workout. So the interest now, there is interest, and there is opportunity to be had there with the Patriots. If it was just a 1-year deal for a D-Hop, does that affect to you his value because we've had him as a free agent. He's probably going to land somewhere. This isn't not my ideal landing spot.
Well, that's why he's one of my 5 receivers who I'm fading.
All right, let's just get into it. So DeAndre Hopkins is your first. You're fading D Hop. So I'll look at the underdog ADPs right now and just look and see where it is. I think he's kind of in that. I know he's kind of in that pocket with guys right now like Amari Cooper, Mike Williams, and stuff like that. I don't know exactly where he is there. Let me pull up the ADPs and just see.
I mean, he's right there around Calvin Ridley, Drake London.
Okay, so rankings, players. For some reason, our underdogs being a little bit slow getting this stuff pulled up. So Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver 19. He's ahead of Keenan Allen, Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, Drake London. But the ADP is not really that far off. It's 39 versus this whole group that we just mentioned. Drake London is only at 43.9. So, I mean, he's going off in that same tier as far as best ball. And you don't want to buy one of the best receivers in the league.
If he goes to the Patriots, no.
Well,
compared to some of those other guys in similar, ranked around, I'd rather have Calvin Ridley in Jacksonville, wouldn't you?
Calvin Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins? Yeah, I'd rather have Calvin Ridley.
Would you rather? Are you for Drake London maybe over D Hop if he goes to New England? This is all contingent on him going to New England.
I get it, but you're already pricing in that he's going to New England. That's just he's DeAndre Hopkins.
It looks like there or Tennessee.
I think that he could really be helpful to Mac Jones. I think that he's the kind of guy that Mac Jones, who's smart guy, knows how to distribute the football. And with DeAndre Hopkins, he doesn't even have to get separation.
Mac Jones, I have very little.
Well, dude, at the very least, you could say that he's at least a viable NFL quarterback, and any viable NFL quarterback is going to be able to throw the ball to where DeAndre Hopkins can get it and just let him go make a play. I think Mac Jones is the kind of quarterback who would actually do that. And he's also he's going to be the primary offensive weapon for that team the minute he steps in the door. I don't worry so much about him being a new wide receiver. One of these guys that I have on my fade list, one of the reasons, I don't want to talk out both sides of my mouth, but one of the reasons I'm interested in fading him is because, he's on a new team. And I don't necessarily like wide receivers going to new teams for the first time, especially ones that come in kind of late in the summer here. It'll be after mandatory mini camps. It'll be, his first action. He won't have any of the OTAs and any of the offseason program. But I think that DeAndre Hopkins is just so gifted that he's one of these wide receivers that could be able to come in there and just say, like, look what I can do.
Yeah,
just give me the football.
But at some point, age has to become a factor in Hopkins' outlook.
Well, you like Ridley better than him, and Calvin Ridley's starting to get kind of old too, and hadn't really played football in 2 years.
I think the offense is better. I think his quarterback's better.
Well, those are true things. And Calvin Ridley did really have a really, really good scoring distribution profile when he has played over the course of the last 2 seasons that he has played. I get that. That's why I have him ranked slightly ahead. I just, I don't love the idea of Hopkins landing in New England. I'm just trying to think about, though, it just sounds so downright unsexy and sounds so bad. I think that there are some reasons to think it could be okay. I think that just stylistically, it feels like he fits up with what they would like to be doing. He's a chain mover. He doesn't have to be able to get this massive separation. Mac Jones is accurate to the parts of the field wherever DeAndre Hopkins is going to want to be targeted. And I don't have much faith in like the Juju Smith-Schusters, the Tyquan Thorntons. I feel like those are guys you can take a stab on, but not that I'm necessarily super interested in. So to me, it's kind of, I'm not sure I got the full on fade of D-Hop just because of the talent. I'll tell you who my first one is, and the easiest one for me is just the Bears wide receivers. the Bears got.
But are their ADPs considerably high? I mean, is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's mainly DJ Moore, but they're going higher than they're going much higher than I would ever want to. I mean, DJ Moore is going at pick 47.7. He's going ahead of Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, who I'm not going to have any Michael Pittman. I'm not going to have any of him. We'll talk about that in a second. JSN, Marquise Brown, Tyler Lockett. He's going 20 spots. He's going 20 spots ahead of Mike Evans. So here are my reasons for that. For one, Chicago last year, second fewest targets or passing attempts per game for those guys last year. I believe with Fields it was 22 attempts per game. And so I've talked about it before. Even if we're talking about a 27% target share for DJ Moore, we're looking at 7.3 targets per game or something like that from Justin Fields, who, look, I think Fields is good for fantasy. I think Fields
is great for fantasy.
Yeah, well, there's been the talk that they're going to scale back his running and make him a little bit more selective with it while still featuring it, right?
I think once the rubber hits the road, though, that's going to be out the window.
Which to me means and they said like sometimes when you get down there near the goal line, you're just going to know when you got to take it in and stuff like that. They realize that it's a key aspect of his game to be able to run the ball. And I just think, all these guys, Claypool, Mooney, DJ Moore, but most specifically DJ Moore, we're talking about an ADP in the 40s. That's wide receiver, DJ Moore right now, wide receiver 26. So basically a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. I guess when you think about it in those terms, it's probably not the worst. But it's at a point in drafts where it's just like, I'm going to be taking that's a point in drafts where guys like Javonte Williams and stuff are falling. And actually, in best ball drafts, you look at where DJ Moore goes, and it's more along the lines of where guys like Aaron Jones is going, Joe Mixon is going, those kinds of there's just absolutely no way that I'm going to be reaching out to another position and taking DJ Moore there. Justin Fields last year, the most sacked quarterback, not only in the NFL, but the most sacked quarterback in all of NFL history. The sack rate for him was 14.7%. Trashman, do you remember David Carr's first season with the Houston Texans?
I try not to.
Okay, all right, but he had a 14.6% sack rate, and all you could think about was him being obliterated, right? I mean, it's because Justin Fields holds.
But David Carr went down a lot harder than Justin Fields. I mean, Justin Fields, some leg tackles, and they stopped the play because
But he holds on to the football too long.
Yeah,
it's like if you look, Pro Football Focus charts this stuff, average time to throw. Okay, so of the guys who had let's just say the guys who had at least 100 dropbacks last year, because the only guys who had higher average time to throw on all dropbacks were Bryce Perkins and Malik Willis. I mean, that's some shitty company to be in, dude, if you're Justin Fields. He just takes too long back there. He's too long a processor. Other guys that were in the same category was the worst version of Deshaun Watson I've ever seen last year, 3.335 seconds. Sam Darnold, 3.22 seconds. Trey Lance, 3.15 seconds. Here's one, Lamar Jackson at 3.12, but that was Lamar Jackson with everybody hurt, every single wide receiver that he had hurt, right? Zach Wilson at 3.07 seconds. Jarrett Stidham at 3.05. Skylar Thompson at 3.04. Marcus Mariota at 3.03. I mean, we're talking about bad players here, Trashman. Sam Ellinger at 3.02. Tyler Huntley at 3.02. Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett were both at 3 seconds. So, I mean, even quarterbacks that were shitty, like Taylor Heineke and stuff, were under that 3 second. Baker Mayfield last year was 2.87 seconds. He holds the football too long. He doesn't process well yet. He takes too many sacks. the number of the number of actual pass attempts that he's going to get off is just going to be too low. And I don't think I think people just say like, oh, he's developing this great relationship with DJ Moore. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares?
We can only hope that DJ Moore becomes his only target in the passing game, the only one he has to think about. We'll shorten that processing time.
Michael Y in the comments is saying D-Hop will produce regardless, and no, that's not because I'm a Clemson homer. He comes right back and says, Deshaun was rusty. He'll be just fine. Anytime we talk about these guys, he's just here to hear about the hear about the Clemson dudes. All right, so DJ Moore for me. Who's your next wide receiver fade?
Deontay Johnson.
Good. I'm glad that you're saying it, but I'd like to hear why.
Well, he finished with 147 targets, 7th in NFL. But he only turned that into 800, like less than 900 yards, 0 receiving touchdowns. And he's gonna get some positive regression regarding those touchdowns, but with George Pickens there, and now with Allen Robinson there, I think Deontay Johnson's going to fade that offense, especially not being able to, not being a scoring option, a primary scoring option for the Steelers.
And doesn't it feel like you always see Deontay Johnson leaving the field, kind of hurt and banged up during games? And it's just he gets off to this hot start with like 7 targets in the first half.
Yeah, he misses plays, but I guess he doesn't miss these games outright. But
well, he comes back in and stuff. But I mean, you're right. He's a dude who's like people. Everybody that just looks at the spreadsheets and who doesn't even watch the games, but just cares about the proper analytics of it. Which, I mean, there's certainly value to it. We use a ton of statistics and stuff. Yeah. Clearly, I mean,
relatively, like Pickens.
He seems
at 84. Go ahead.
He seems to be so inefficient to me.
Yeah, I mean, Pickens had 84 targets to those 147, and ended up with 800 yards. Just 80 yards less than Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, because
almost half.
Yeah, right. Because targets. He's an alpha. Because he's an alpha. I talked about it earlier, and I guess I didn't tease it because I just straight up said it, but it's like, who is taking Michael Pittman at 57.3? Yeah. It's madness to me. Let me just tell you that there's this whole area, right? Wide receiver to 30 to wide receiver 32. And these are just besides DJ Moore, I was going to say this, mainly the Steelers guys in general. I think Pickens is probably even going a little bit too high. But these 3 guys, Michael Pittman for the Colts, Jackson Smith and Jigba for the Seattle Seahawks, and Marquise Brown for the Cardinals. And people are going to say like, whoa, like really? Because there's cases to be made. I think there's cases to be made for JSN and for Marquise Brown, right? It's harder for me to make a case for Michael Pittman. It really is just a new quarterback and Anthony Richardson, who we're just absolutely not sure of. Yeah. Who had a sub 60% completion percentage in college. I understand that he's looked really good. I've loved the clips you've seen the clips of him like running through bags and then throwing him into the little section of the quarterback nets and stuff like that. I mean, he looks good, but Anthony Richardson's going to look good in these drills no matter what. He looks like a transformer. I mean, he's going to look really, really good and impressive no matter what. I cannot see this being an offense that automatically, starts lighting it up to where their number one featured downfield wide receiver is going to be somebody that's remotely viable in this kind of range. And I mean, Pittman kind of hasn't been great. Loved him as a prospect. We've seen some flashes, but he hasn't been a consistently good player. And he's being taken before Tyler Lockett. Like he's being taken well before guys like Kadarius Toney, who profiles could be the number one and one of the best offenses in the whole league. Yeah. I mean, I know he has question marks too, but it's just you get these guys 20 picks later, guys like Brandon Cooks, Elijah Moore, that they say looks like the number one target for Deshaun Watson. That's like 25 picks later, 30 picks later, you get Elijah Moore, you get Rashad Bateman 25 picks later. I mean, I understand all these guys have warts, but it's like their warts look pretty damn similar. And we were talking about two rounds earlier for the ADP, like no Michael Pittman for me at this point. There's plenty of time for these ADPs to shift. And again, I'm looking at underdog ADPs, which we've outlined on this show numerous times before. These zero running back drafters on underdog are going to get blown to smithereens whenever we get into real redraft season. I've just done too many of these simulations. Running backs go off the board too quick. And I was on the show, the game plan with my friend Maddie from Player Profiler over the weekend, and you can listen to that. I'll post it on our website so you guys can find an easy way to find that. But it's like, if people keep taking these wide receivers this early and they keep trying to build like this, thinking they're going to have their Aaron Joneses available to them in the 5th round, their Joe Mixon's available to them in the 5th round, like all the I'm going to say, screw you, idiots. I'm going to make sure that that's not possible. I'm going to make sure if you start out with you start out with the tight end and 3 wide receivers, you're going to be staring down the barrel of like a Miles Sanders RB1, something like that. You're not gonna get your cake and eat it too when it comes to regular redraft leagues. You're forced to kind of go along with these people in underdog and in best ball, because the simple fact of the matter is, with best ball, you can't fix things up. Like, you can't go to the guy who didn't draft any running backs and say, hey man, look, you're kind of swindled. Like, let's make a trade here, balance out our rosters a little bit. You can't do that. So you're kind of forced to kind of go along to get along. It's not going to be like that in redraft. And so for me, these guys, Michael Pittman, for now at this ADP, no thank you. JSN, pretty simple. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are there. It's going to be a little bit tough. Still love him in Dynasty. Not going to pay the steep price of the hype that comes along with the guy that's the wide receiver 1 in the class for JSN, just because everybody loves him so much, just like I love him.
And this is the reason why I never wanted him as my number 1. This is the exact reason.
Why?
Because of his landing spot, his potential landing spot.
But you wanted Quentin Johnston, and there's no way I'm taking Quentin Johnston either. He's fine for Dynasty right now. He's not going to do these.
I bet he has a better season than JSN.
Do you want to make a bet on that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, just let's make it for two Jersey Mike subs. Okay. And hey, Jersey Mike subs are getting a little expensive. We might need to just make it 1 Jersey Mike sub these days.
I can't even eat them anymore.
You can get them wrapped in lettuce, can't you?
Really? I don't know if they do that.
I'm not sure Jersey Mike's does that. I know Jimmy John's does it. Okay, so you say Quentin Johnston. The Trashman says that. I got to add it to my little crypt sheet here because I did the show with Siege and we made a couple bets on there too. What side are you on of this? Are you on my side of the Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson PPR?
Antonio Gibson.
Of course it is.
All day.
I told Siege he's a donk. Okay, but so you have Quentin Johnston. I have JSN. I don't like JSN. Like on that. I'm telling you, he's a fade. So obviously, probably Quentin Johnston's a fade for me. He's going a lot later. Yeah. I told Maddie on that podcast. He asked me for a bold take, and I was kind of under the gun. I said that Jaden Reed's going to outscore JSN this year.
He might. I mean, I think it could very well be the case.
Hey, before we get to that, do you buy into any of this stuff that the Green Bay press is saying about how Jordan Love is locked on to Romeo Doubs as his number 1?
Dude, I've been saying
it can't be true.
It can.
No, it can't. No, who would choose that beta over alphas like Christian Watson and Jaden Reed?
I think he just comes off as being pretty reliable. Especially underneath. I mean, I feel like he's more of a chain mover than maybe a Christian Watson, who's a big play guy, red zone guy. I mean, I think Watson still ends up with more points on the season, but Dobbs can end up with more receptions.
Do you want to make a bet on that?
Dobbs more reception than Watson?
Yeah.
Sure.
Really? All right, so Dobbs. So Trashman's got Dobbs, and I have Watson, but we're not talking fantasy points. We're just talking receptions.
Yeah.
Alex, that's for receptions. One Jersey Mike sub in this inflated economy. Okay. All right. Cool. Couple bets. And then the other guy, just my last one, Marquise Brown, another one that's just very simple. It's going to be it's going to be counterintuitive because people are going to say, what do you mean? DeAndre Hopkins is gone. They got nobody else, like all the rest of it. To me, this team is absolutely tanking. They're going to tank. They're going to end up getting rid of Kyler Murray. They're going to draft Caleb Williams. They're going to be the worst team in the league. I'm beginning to think that, man, taking any of these Arizona Cardinals is dumb just on its face. Most importantly, though, just the quarterbacks. Kyler's not going to put – who's going to – Kyler – I mean, am I crazy? Didn't Kyler Murray tear his ACL like in December?
Yeah.
When was that? Kyler Murray ACL. I mean, have I gone crazy? December 18th, 2022. It was sources say quarterback Kyler Murray suffered a clean ACL tear with no damage to other ligaments in his knee. The non-contact injury occurred, the week before or so, on the 17th. So, I mean, have we just forgotten that this is a 1-year deal? Is it different for a tiny little running quarterback? I mean, are you kidding me? The guy you paid all this money to, you to push him back in a season where you need to lose anyway?
Yeah, I don't think they're.
And then Colt's going to get hurt.
Him.
Colt always gets hurt.
Don't we know it?
I mean, golly.
I mean, I guess it's so relative though. Compared to, where's Marquise Brown being taken?
Like I just said, these three guys go in order. It goes Michael Pittman, JSN, Marquise Brown. And so if you look at it, and obviously it's going to be probably a little bit more inflated at right now for these guys, but 57.3, 59.9, and 60. So they're right at the 5-6 turn.
Yeah.
No,
that's too early.
That's like it's going to be your wide receiver 2 at best. Even if you have a cockamamie 0 RB status, you're going to be your wide receiver 4. It's like, and then you're wide receiver 3, and that's even if you're a little bit stuck at running back. So no, I'm not taking any of those guys. And just one other guy that I'll mention who I talked about over the weekend that I didn't realize that Jonathan Mingo is basically going off the board as rookie wide receiver 5. I mean, to me, I don't think that makes much sense. I don't understand how he could have gotten that big of a jump because of his landing spot, because nobody was thinking about Mingo as a top 5 guy in the class.
I mean, I was pretty close.
Okay. Well, you were higher on him than most. I get it. But before the draft, nobody was thinking of him as like a top 5 prospect. And he's going after he's the next. He's the next. Is he the next? Let me just go over this again.
I mean, his landing spot is
crazy to me.
Is ideal.
Okay. No, it's not. What's ideal about it?
Is it wide open in front of him?
I guess. I mean, they've brought in two highly paid free agents who they say that they like, and
but neither one of them are alphas.
Shark. Joe Person said that they think that Terrace Marshall can be their alpha. Why are they talking so much about Terrace Marshall?
But this is exactly what I'm saying. Like, there is no clear cut alpha there in front of Mingo.
So the way that these guys are going as far as the rookies, I'll just eyeball the rookies as we go through. So JSN is rookie wide receiver 1. Jordan Addison's going about 10 picks later than him at rookie wide receiver 2. There's no way I can get you to make a JSN versus Jordan Addison bet, right, Trashman? You're already well on record with that. Rookie wide receiver 3 is Quentin Johnston going at 81.6. So even to me, at the end of the 7th round, still probably going a little bit early for him. Zay Flowers at 89.6. So that he's rookie wide receiver 4. The next rookie wide receiver up, Jonathan Mingo. Now he's a lot later at 131.6. He's followed by Rashee Rice at 134.2.
I think it makes sense where he is. I mean, there aren't a lot of guys. There aren't a lot of marquee receivers in marquee positions.
I can't believe that Jalen Hyatt is going after those guys.
Really?
What's the difference?
I don't even think he's necessarily going to be a starter this season.
Well, suits. All right. So you think the Carolina is just a cakewalk, but the New York Giants wide receiver core is some sort of like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle?
I think it's going to be harder for Hyatt.
Slayton.
I think it's going to be harder for Hyatt
through the season. Isaiah Hodgins, who sucks.
Barkley's going to get more targets than him already.
Barkley's acting like he's going to sit out the whole year.
Already going to get more targets than him.
Barkley says Barkley still hasn't signed his franchise tag. We could be looking at
it. You think he's going to sit this season?
We could be. He said it's not out of the question.
I don't know about that.
Darren Waller's who you worry about there. There's no other wide receivers.
There are.
Should he be going? Should Jalen Hyatt be going literally 25 picks after Jonathan Mingo?
Jalen Hyatt is a raw, big play speedster, which is exactly
Reed goes 30 picks after Jonathan Mingo.
What Slayton was when he came.
Jaden Reed goes 30 picks after Mingo. Trashman, make it make sense. Marvin Mims goes 35 picks after Mingo. Mingo's going too early. He's my final fade.
He can be your final fade. My final fades are Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I think you fade both of those guys. Tampa Bay threw the ball more than any other team last season. That's not happening this year, especially with the quarterbacks that are on that roster. I think it's down years for Godwin and Evans.
And for that reason. And with Mike Evans, like we talked about on the other podcast, it could be the beginning of the end for our guy. As sad as that is for the epic Hall of Famer Mike Evans.
Yeah. And my last fade is Zay Jones. 121 targets in 2022. I don't think he's going to come close to that with Calvin Ridley on the squad now. I think Zay Jones had a banner year. I think he's going to get bumped down.
So you were back on Zay Jones though last year? I thought once the pants came off, our hands were off.
I always evaluated him pretty high at the Senior Bowl that year. He was one of my favorite receivers.
What about when he took off his pants and then tried to throw himself out of a glass window?
I don't know. We have bad nights sometimes, all of us. But Zay Jones, he's got that pedigree. Yeah, I think he's got a good skill set. But yeah, I just don't see him having a similar year to 2022 and 2023, especially with Calvin Ridley on the team now.